Can a 20-year-old MMORPG still be relevant in 2018? Hello, how's it going everyone? Welcome to the 2018 Tibia review. This is a special one for me. I'll be talking about the game mostly for people that are not familiar with it. But if you already know Tibia and haven't played in a long time, I believe you also enjoy this video. Tibia is an extremely nostalgic game. It still brings people back to it because of the experiences they lived in it years ago. If you're Polish, Brazilian, or Swedish, you must know at least one person who has played it, or you have seen it being played in lands around you. When I first got into Tibia, like many people, the reason was simple. My PC couldn't handle other games. To be honest, it could barely even handle Tibia. Even today, when I boot up the game client and log in, some things stand out. The graphics were and still are very simple, and the game has no sound. Yeah, you heard it right. The game has no sound. How can you in 2018 play a game with no sound? Many design choices and mechanics in Tibia are weird, but they seem to come together nicely. The first couple of times you try to attack a monster and see no attack animation may seem very hard to understand, until you notice that nothing has an attack animation. Some skills have effects, but your character just stands there while attacking or being attacked. That's something that no modern game does, or we could say that that's something any modern game does, but not Tibia. In the greater scheme of things, it doesn't take much away from the experience. There's something different about this game. When you navigate its isometric view with tile-based movements, it feels like playing a tactics RPG, or a tabletop like Dungeons and Dragons. It seems like these similarities with classic RPG video games and tabletop games are not accidental. One of the most classic enemies in Tibia was named the Beholder, inspired by the Dungeons and Dragons creature, an extremely powerful enemy in D&D, which in Tibia only provides a great challenge for inexperienced players, but still, a clear inspiration from the world of D&D.
The Beholder is a foul and evil beast who came up from the underworld and destroyed all things of beauty in the valley.
The developers seem to have taken inspiration from tabletop RPGs when designing many aspects of Tibia, with the idea of playing a game where the action happens mostly in your imagination, allowing you to fill in the blanks to make something that seems to be very simple, but becomes profoundly interesting. Another part of Tibia that feels a little different is the freedom, but it's a different sense of freedom than you feel in other MMOs. The world feels like an actual world without completely linear maps, fixed waypoints, or invisible walls. The feeling of playing something like this years ago was incredible, and of course, recently having games like World of Warcraft or Black Desert Online, this kind of openness is somewhat more common, but you still hardly find games that feel like real worlds, without invisible walls or places you just can't go to for absolutely no decent reason. Exploring the world actually feels like exploring. Wandering around a place you never went through before without knowing what kinds of creatures hide in the shadows of a new dungeon or in an unexplored tropical forest. And when you stumble upon an unknown creature, there's no way of just looking at it and understanding how powerful and dangerous it is. There are no creature levels, no danger or power indications showing that you're not fit to fight something. You can't see health point numbers, you just see a health bar and the name of the creature. Monsters can be fast or slow, big or small, but you only see how strong an enemy really is when the battle starts, and this is a rare feeling in MMOs. The responsibility of finding the challenge and deciding if you're fit to fight or not is yours. Nobody will hold your hand and guide you, and this is another aspect that seems to be shared with more imagination-focused games like tabletop RPGs. In this game, there are no level limits. Levels and the experience required to level scale forever, and the grind gets longer and longer, but the amounts of experience gotten by the highest level players is also really large. The leveling process is made of simple grinding. There's barely any experience gotten from quests or other sources. It's just a matter of getting the biggest experience bonus possible and then going on a mob killing spree. Many players also choose to only play during 2 hours each day, since the game has a system of providing 2 hours of bonus experience sort of daily. These 2 hours recharge after a period offline and are exclusive to players who are on premium time. Of course, very high level characters manage to fight stronger creatures with more ease. But several game mechanisms are created so that very high level players need items that can be farmed by very low level players, designing an economy that can work even for the new players. These have been relatively new additions to the game, and in the past, new players would struggle a lot to be able to build up their economy and grow in strength. They would have to decide constantly between wasting a lot of money leveling or making small savings while gaining much less experience. Another important aspect of Tibia that is a little weird and different from other games is the interaction with the NPCs. The typical way of interacting with an NPC in Tibia is by talking to it. By approaching an NPC and typing hi or hello in the same chat window you use to talk to other players, you'll start a conversation with an NPC. Some NPCs have specific keywords they respond to, which will be highlighted in the conversation. You can click on the words or say them to the NPC to keep the conversation going. Some NPCs will have deep conversations with you about the historical details of Tibia or how they feel about the current state of affairs, or even some random facts about what their jobs are and what they're currently doing. The most interesting thing here is that there are still theories about unknown quests, since NPCs have hidden dialogues and you can't just see all the options available all the time. This is another idea that the game seems to take away from more classical games like textual adventures, where you'd have to be really creative to discover what should be done, and again, your hand's not held all the time telling you everything that you should be doing or that you could be doing. Speaking in chat channels is also related to another mechanic of the game, which are character spells. These spells are tied to magical words. You can select a spell from the spell window and drag it to the hotkey bar, or you can just type the actual magic words in chat, and your character will try to cast the spell. I find this one of the most interesting aspects of the game. It's a way of adding immersion to the experience that seems to be very different from the approach used by other games. Another detail that adds to the immersion is the fact that gold is actually dropped as an item instead of being just a number in your inventory interface. You have to actually carry around gold as an item when looting from creatures, just like you would with other kinds of drops. Premium account players are able to pay purchases from NPCs directly from the gold deposited in their bank accounts, so you only really need to carry around the gold you recently looted. Your inventory is also not just an inventory window. Your character has a single backpack slot, and a backpack can contain other backpacks. Each one has a very limited amount of slots, and you must open each one of them to check their items. This has its problems. Just like in a game like WoW, sometimes it's good to be able to see everything you're carrying. At the same time, can you imagine loading hundreds of gold coin stacks and having to constantly see them in the interface? It's a little awkward, but it also makes the loot gathered feel like actual treasure, and the interface has other ways of helping keeping this organized. Right in the beginning of the game, you're able to get to know the vocations and to give each of them a try if you wish. There will be 4 choices: Knight, Paladin, Sorcerer, and Druid. The Knight is a melee class that has a tank role when in parties, but it's also very capable of dealing damage by itself when solo playing. Druids and Sorcerers are ranged damage dealers with spells and runes. The Sorcerer has the most damage spells, while the Druid also has healing capabilities, both in healing specific teammates and the entire party. Paladins are not the traditional RPG paladins. They are attached to the holy element, but they are also distant damage dealers, and they're also capable of handling substantially more damage taken than Druids or Sorcerers. The combination of classes is very powerful, but especially Knights and Druids are very desired characters because they can be, by themselves, filling the trinity of roles needed when hunting, which are tanking, damaging, and healing. But in general, you can be useful in the game with any class, since the most important thing in the game is understanding what must be done and doing it correctly. Some classes will outshine others in certain situations, but these things are common in MMORPGs. Things change and classes surpass others by big or small margins. I believe that Tibia is in a spot nowadays where you can have fun playing any classes and not feel completely useless. I have played most classes to decent levels and always had a lot of fun with them. Most quests in Tibia are really hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for. Unless you search on fan sites or ask other players, you'll have to actually dwell into dialogues with NPCs to figure out that something should be done and what it is. Since most quests are documented in fan sites, you can just follow the instructions and easily complete your missions. There are quests that lead you to jump through many hoops and solve puzzles, like helping an NPC find his true love, or logical puzzles, color matching and memory. Either way, these can be very interesting or just mildly challenging, depending on whether you want to follow a complete guide or find find the solutions by yourself, but it has to be said that some quests are incredibly long and boring to do, even though they have interesting ideas or concepts. Quests like the Postman quest take you all over the world, and many times you have to just walk long distances to complete steps, and even following a guide and doing exactly what you must do, it becomes way more of a chore than an adventure. There are also quests that not only have puzzles to be solved, but also masses of powerful creatures to be defeated. This leads to a culture that has developed in Tibia of very high level people providing services of cleaning big quests for other players, where they guide these players through the location, defeat all creatures, and allow the clients to collect the treasure. If you decide to not take these services and only complete these quests with a group by your own terms, you'll find out the game starts to provide an incredibly larger challenge level, and it also may become more fun depending on how you approach it. I believe this is a very important thing because you have to decide on how you want to play the game. If you want to just level very fast and be a part of a powerful guild, you should in general take the easiest path, following guides and being guided through quests. But you can also play the game in your own time, figuring out your own challenges and solving your own puzzles, and I can assure you that Tibia allows this path to be incredibly satisfying and can give you a kind of experience that not many other MMORPGs will be able to, similar to, again, old school games and tabletop RPGs. Tibia is the most political game I've ever played in my life. The game design doesn't include anything that would add to this directly. Nobody thought of dominated zones on the map, tax collectors for guilds, fights for territory, but the game has naturally created worlds where people actually form real-life alliances and battle for the domination of a server. This goes way beyond what people that have never played the game can understand at first glance. In PvP worlds, generally, a guild dominates the server, deciding that certain territories belong to them, and hunting the people who trespass their turf. Characters are frequently transferred from other servers in order to help in wars, being as support to the dominant guilds or as challengers to their status quo. Many players are passionate about Tibia's PvP system and wars, no matter how much time passes and how much the game changes. But still, this whole world of guilds, alliances, and wars for power is a very powerful part of the game, which drives many people to play as mercenaries, going from world to world, forming small armies to fight the players in power, and moving on to the next world when bored. Of course, if you're just a casual player like me, who never wanted to take part in the politics of the game, this becomes annoying fast. With the years, the game mechanics were modified to reduce how much killing can be done by players and to reduce the death penalties in the game. Dying in the game years ago would mean hours or perhaps even days of experience lost. The abuse of these characteristics of the game in order to impose power on servers has several times been the point of serious discussion in Tibia. The world of Seta has had over 500 characters instantly deleted, all connected to a guild determined to have practiced a severe abuse of power and destructive behavior. This guild has been said to have virtually closed the server for nobody else to play but themselves. If you want to take a deeper look into this subject, I suggest you to Google search for Tibia power abuse bans. I'm aware of this happening many times, and with this you can see that Tibia has an incredibly political side, and not by coincidence, this side has always been filled by struggles for power and corruption, since many server-dominant guilds sell in-game gold to make an actual living in their real lives. But getting back to the basics of playing on a PvP server, not all hope is lost for those who do not wish to take part in this. There are non-PvP worlds where you cannot be killed by other players and you can focus on just playing with the world around you and avoiding this stuff. But obviously, if there are people around you, they will try to find a way to lure monsters on other players and create traps to kill them. In years of playing on non-PvP servers, this has never actually hurt my experience. As in any modern MMORPG, players can trade between each other and there is a marketplace where item buy and sell orders can be placed. These markets are limited per server, so each server has its own market and its own economy. As far as day-to-day marketplace usage goes, when playing a character, you'll find that almost anything you want to have can be purchased in the market. This is a blessing and a curse, of course, and it all depends on, again, your method of playing. If you want to get your items by yourself, always, instead of buying things to get stronger, you'll find it very hard to improve your equipment. It's incredibly easier to gather a few coins and go for the next piece of equipment that improves your situation a bit, especially since these items would be sold by the higher level players, which have a way easier time acquiring them. But again, just like with quests, limiting yourself to only use what you are capable of acquiring can make the game way more rewarding and fun, and some people, myself included, believe that this is a way of playing the game that will delay your burnout, allowing you to keep having fun for a longer time, when if you just buy everything, things can get boring fast. But there is one place where there's no influx of equipment for everyone to just purchase on the market, and those are new servers. Watching how new servers develop in Tibia is an interesting way to understand how players relate to each other and how the game economy works. First, it's important to notice that not all new servers are the same. There are some new servers which have transfers enabled. Players can transfer their characters there, so the new server will have a big amount of already built characters with high levels. But truly new servers with only new characters are very interesting. There are no items in the market to purchase. Players have to fight and grind to get what they need to be stronger. And there's a huge competition for places for leveling. This means that players try to stay hunting as long as they're capable of, and for this, they make use of the game's cash shop. In my opinion, this feature has the potential of being terrible, and I'll tell you why. Players can, while hunting, purchase potions and runes directly from the game's cash shop, without having to go back to town to refill. This means that players who pay additional money have a big advantage of having just a few creatures and keep killing them, instead of having to manage their time and supplies to go back to town and refill. Looking at this from a competitive point of view, where you're trying to outlevel the other players, this corresponds directly to pay to win. Unfortunately, the pay to win situation is not only limited to buying potions and runes. In established servers, players will pay for their monthly premium time by using Tibia coins. These coins are purchased with real money and are sold in-game for gold, which translates to real money trade. You put in dollars and receive some gold. Nowadays, if you join any community hub in Tibia like Reddit or Discord servers, you see that people of relatively low level are talking about the equipment worth a lot of gold, as if it was nothing, and many threads about players wanting to level with infinite cash supply. There are many powerful characters of incredibly high levels in the game that can make a lot of money, and they create a demand for Tibia coins. So the value a low level player can get from putting just a few bucks in the game is really big. This impacts the economy by a lot, and you can do some research on the impacts of RMT on MMORPGs and their world economies if you wish. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe some things in the cash shop are okay, like being able to purchase small XP boosts from time to time, having the option to mitigate a death or two eventually. My point is not that this ruins the game, but that many things that are challenging about the game give you the option to just pay to skip them. Hunting for profit, getting better gear, managing your time and economies, for example. Again, this doesn't make the game suck, but there's something negative about being able to directly purchase game money with real money in a virtual world. If you don't want to take part in this, you can. You can choose to not pay for gold, and this will probably make the game a lot more fun for you, because then you'll be able to by yourself go after your own achievements instead of just buying them. But hey, you choose how you play, not me. For the longest time, Tibia was a paradise for botting. Talk to people that used to play Tibia back in the day, and most of them will, if they're open to talking about this kind of stuff with you, admit that they have botted in Tibia. PewDiePie made a video where he talks about how botting was for him the most satisfying part of Tibia. You can only imagine that this would happen as botting were so common. People saw it as a practice required to be a part of this world, not exactly as immoral. But publicly, everyone would still talk about how terrible this practice was and how it ruined the game. Eventually, Cipsoft figured out a way to deal with bots, and all of a sudden, nowadays you can play Tibia for hours and hours without seeing a single bot online. There sure are hardcore macros and handcrafted bots for specific players, but the plague that ate every spawn and every mob in the game is long gone. Don't believe me? Go give it a try. Go to the all popular bot spawns like Corums in any Rotworm cave, and they're all available. You'll see actual players there fighting mobs. It's amazing, and for this reason and many others, Tibia seems to be experiencing a rebirth. There are more people online daily now than there used to be in 2015, and the game seems like at 20 years of age, it is actually moving forward. Cipsoft is listening to player feedback and implementing new features in the game, like the recent auto loot features. And it seems like this before unheard of practice of listening to player feedback, combined with efforts to improve connection quality to servers and the absence of bots, may be the driving forces to a breath of fresh air in Tibia that may give a new rise to its population. We can only wait and see. In the end, it's incredible that an MMORPG that's 20 years old can renew itself and attract old players and new players again without a complete overhaul, without falling in the trap of trying to be exactly like the others. Tibia is special in its own way, and I hope I have managed to let you see a bit more of why.